Sport Fishing on the Fly is brought to you by Togen's Fly Shop, Maui Jim Sunglasses, and Hardy Rods and Reels.
Good day folks, welcome back to On the Bench. Today I'm going to tie you up a flashback mahogany nymph. The mahogany nymph was hatching here around mid-September into October. They're very tiny, anywhere from maybe size 18 up to 14s. And yeah, the trout were really liking this fly, as well as the soft hackle version that I tie. So make sure you have these materials handy before you tie the fly. For hook, I'm using a size 14, 2 times long nymph hook by Togen's. For bead, I'm using a Togen's tungsten cool bead, and the color is magic brown. The size is a 3/32 or 2.4 millimeter. For thread, I'm using a rusty brown color, and I believe it's 12/0. For the tail and the legs, I'll be using it's just some Indian hen. It's kind of a brown with a little bit of black in it color. The rib is a fine brown wire. For the flashback, I'm going to be using this Perdigon body by Semperfli, and it's in the fluorescent orange color. For the Wingcase, I'm using a Holo Tinsel, and it's like a medium Holo Tinsel, 0.8 millimeter, and the color is copper. And for the Thorax, I'm using gel core body Micro Fritz by Semperfli in dark brown. Just go ahead and start your thread behind the bead. I'm just going to bring it back to the bend. There. Next, take your tailing material. I'm using the hen. The mahogany mayflies do have a speckled tail and speckled legs. You could use Coq de Leon as well. I'm just going to tie. I've taken a feather and I've made a little V. See that I've pulled the tip out of it. And I'm just going to tie it right on top. Come around. And then just pull it to the length I want. They actually do have 3 tails, but I always like to tie a few extra on. Just going to pull that to length, probably about the length of the shank, maybe just a little tad shorter. And then I'm going to take a couple of wraps in underneath that tail, just to hold it right on top. Now bring my thread forward. Turn that in, snip that stem away. Like that. Next, take your thread, and I'm just going to build sort of a little taper into this body. Kind of like a little, just getting a little gradually bigger at the front. Now you can take your ribbing material. I'm using the brown wire. You always want to tie in first the last thing you're going to wrap up the hook, and for me that's going to be this rib. I'm going to tie it right back to the tail. So, now take your flashback material. These nymphs do have an obvious line going up, I don't know how else to describe it, back going up them that is lighter than the body. I'm just going to tie that right on top, so that when I bend it, fold it back over, it's going to be laying right flat on top. And I'm just going to take my thread and cover that up. Back to the front. Now you can take your Flashback and just fold it over. Wire's in the way there. Tie that off. I'm actually going to go fold it back and go over it. Just snip that away. Now take your wire and you can just make some nice even ribs. Probably about 5 or 6. Probably about 5. I'm just going to give it a couple extra wraps here at the front for some weight. Sorry, extra weight. Bring my thread back to where I want my thorax to start. Just break that away. So far we have it looking like this. Now at this point you can take your UV resin of your choice if you wanted to coat the body in UV resin. For the purpose of the video, I'm not going to do that. I can only apply resins outside, so I try not to use them inside if I can help it. And I'm just going to take my Wingcase. If you don't have Holo tinsel or whatever, you could use pheasant tail, that's totally fine. Just tie my Wingcase in, and I'm bringing it back almost to the halfway point, but not quite. Next to your thorax material, if you don't have the gel core microfits, you could totally use peacock herl for this, or dubbing. I'm just going to tie that in. And wrap it probably about 4 times. You want to leave a little space behind the bead there for the legs and to tie off your Wingcase. That should be good. Now take your another hen feather. So I've got my hen feather, and I'm just going to pull the fluff down off the bottom that I don't need. The larger feathers I don't need at the bottom as well. And then I'm going to pull my feathers down, and I'm just going to measure along the hook here how far back I want my legs to come. And then everything below that I'm going to strip off, as well as I'm going to snip the tip out of here. And then, yeah, I probably want about half a dozen or so legs on each side. So I'm just going to strip those right off the stem so I get the right amount I want. So what I have is like a V right there. And now I'm just going to take this and lay it right on top. So, and make 2 locking wraps. Make sure that my legs are in the position that I want them in. And that's about how far I want them to come back. And now I'm just going to take a turn in front here and lock it down. Go ahead and snip your stem away at that point. And now take your Wingcase and just fold it over in between the legs. Donnie Erasmus, who wrote Hatches, does this fly in his book. And he uses actually a rusty brown color for the thorax. I have seen it done that way, and I've seen it done with a darker brown thorax. And he also uses a black holographic Wingcase. So there's options. You don't have the exact thing I have. It's not necessary. I just snip that off, and then you can just whip finish. So, actually I'm going to take just a tiny bit of, had some resin handy here. Maybe I don't. I'm just going to apply a little bit of resin onto the thread. And then do another whip finish. It's just a tiny amount. Like I say, I don't often apply it inside because I am sensitive to it. And then you can take your light and just give it a quick cure. And that's it, my Flashback Mahogany Mayfly. So yeah, they were hatching here in like mid-September to mid-October-ish, and did pretty good on this fly when they were around, as well as the soft hackle version. Thanks for joining me on this edition of On the Bench. Take care, everyone. Conserve the waters and tight lines.